Mid-spring usually feels like the point where the gaming year starts picking up real speed, and April 2026 has that exact vibe. It may look calmer than some of the bigger months ahead, but there are still some major AAA releases here, plus a solid mix of genres to keep things interesting. So in this video, we've got 10 of the top brand new April releases that are worth your attention. What's up, guys? It's Broz, and here we go. Pragmata just got its launch date pulled forward by a full week. Capcom dropped the news straight from their March showcase, April 17th instead of the original April 24th. That same event brought a fresh trailer highlighting brand new sections of the abandoned lunar research station and extra robot enemies controlled by the shady AI. You control Hugh alongside his android sidekick Diana, and the gameplay loop flips traditional shooting on its head. First, you hack into the machines to crack their defenses wide open, then you unload with your weapons. Previews from Summer Game Fest and Gamescom describe the whole system as surprisingly intuitive, blending real-time puzzles straight into fast-paced firefights without breaking momentum. Here's something that blew up online in February. The main subreddit got banned by Reddit admins after waves of explicit posts targeting Diana's childlike appearance. One moderator even quit publicly, calling out the flood of inappropriate content that moderators couldn't handle. Developers themselves mentioned facing serious challenges when animating her precise robotic facial expressions to keep her looking distinctly android. After years of multiple delays since the 2020 reveal, this original Capcom IP finally lands on PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Samson just dropped its full release date trailer at IGN FanFest and locks in exclusively on PC April 8th. Liquid Swords, the tiny studio founded back in 2020 by Christopher Sundberg and other ex-Avalanche vets from Just Cause and Mad Max, spent 6 full years on this debut and finally brings it home. You step into a broken fighter dragged back to the brutal 1990s-inspired metropolis of Tyndallston, where family deaths and street secrets push you into raw hand-to-hand brawling and high-speed chases through rain-slicked alleys. The combat system runs on pure physical improvisation. One heavy punch can drop enemies in a single bloody hit, while you pop painkillers mid-fight to keep the momentum going. Dynamic vehicle sections throw in driver-style driving mixed with straight-up Mad Max carnage, and the pseudo-open world lets you pick your own routes through consequences that actually stick. The latest development diary already dives deep into city and car design, showing exactly how they built that Max Payne New York vibe with modern polish. Previews and hands-on sessions highlight the heavy consequence system where every choice ripples through the story. Main path clocks around 10 hours, but chasing every side thread pushes it past 25. It is also known that console versions are promised to be released later. Saros feels like Housemarque taking the pressure and speed people liked in Returnal and rebuilding it into something less punishing and more persistent. You still fight through violent runs on the shape-shifting planet Carcosa under a permanent eclipse, but this time death is not just a clean reset. The game keeps feeding progress back into your character, so every failed run still leaves something useful behind over time too. Instead of starting cold every time, you come back with stronger weapons, better suit upgrades, and more control over how the next run unfolds. Rahul Kohli voices the lead. The enemy waves still look aggressive, and the bosses still seem built to overwhelm you if you stop moving for even a second. The shooting stays fast, the arenas stay hostile, and the whole thing still has that Housemarque habit of filling the screen with danger. The difference is that Saros seems much more interested in momentum than punishment. Movement, balance, and pacing were all reworked after feedback, and Housemarque has also confirmed fast travel between unlocked areas, which should make repeat runs tighter instead of dragging them out. Saros releases April 30th, exclusively on PlayStation 5. Invincible vs already looks like it knows exactly why people care about this universe. It is a 3-on-3 tag fighter built around savage finishers, blood everywhere, and the kind of broken body violence that the comic and the show never tried to hide. Quarter Up and Skybound are leading straight into that tone, and every new character reveal keeps pushing the whole thing further. You can swap fighters in the middle of pressure, extend combos, save a teammate before a killing hit lands, and keep chaining offense with assists and specials. Alan the Alien is the latest addition. The open beta is set to feature 10 playable characters on consoles, and the launch roster is aiming for 18. It also helps that the presentation is not playing things safe. The fights already show bruising, gore, destruction, and locations pulled from both the comic and the animated series, so it does not feel like a cheap side project wearing familiar faces. Invincible releases April 30th on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Aphelion looks much more interesting when you stop thinking about it as a regular sci-fi story game and start looking at what you actually do in it. Most of the tension comes from movement, terrain, and survival. You play as Ariane and Thomas, crossing frozen ground, climbing unstable surfaces, and slipping through dangerous spaces while something unknown is stalking the planet. The setup follows Ariane and Thomas after a crash on Planet 9, and the story uses both perspectives as the mission comes apart. The European Space Agency partnership is one of the strongest details around the game, because it means the mission equipment, scientific framing, and space tech were built with real input instead of just vague movie-style science. Don't Nod is also leaning into suspense more than open horror. Environmental changes keep the ice in motion, while the hostile life form stays present without turning the game into non-stop combat. Aphelion launches on April 28 for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. It will also be available on Game Pass on day one. Cthulhu: The Cosmic Abyss is not trying to be a loud action horror game. It is much more focused on investigation, deduction, and the damage that comes from learning things you probably should not know. The story follows Noah, an occult investigator sent into the Pacific depths to trace a missing research team near Relaya, and the whole game seems built around slowly pushing your mind into worse places. The more Noah sees and understands, the more the world around him starts to change. Scenes distort as clues become harder to trust, and the story can lead to different endings depending on how much forbidden knowledge you carry. That is a much better fit for Lovecraft than just throwing monsters at the player every few minutes and hoping atmosphere does the rest. The studio behind it matters too. This is the team that made The Council and Swan Song, so dialogue, consequence systems, and investigation work are already part of its identity. The game launches on April 16 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. Replaced has been hanging around for so long that the real question now is whether the final game can still hit as hard as its first reveal did. Sad Cat Studios said the game passed 850,000 wishlists, drew around 185,000 demo players, and pulled mostly positive feedback before release, which is a serious response for a small team making its first game. At the center is Reach, an artificial intelligence trapped in a human body inside an alternate America shaped by nuclear fallout and corporate decay. The appeal is not just the pixel art. Replace mixes cinematic platforming, close-range combat, shooting, and exploration in a way that feels heavier and more physical than a lot of retro-styled indies. The delay to April makes sense in that context. If the movement, animation, or combat timing feels off, a game like this can fall apart fast, while the synth score and that ruined Neon City already do a lot to sell the mood. And with Game Pass on day one, it should reach a much bigger audience right away. Replaced releases April 14th on Xbox Series and PC. Tides of Tomorrow has one idea that immediately separates it from most narrative adventure games. Your single-player story can be shaped by another player's choices even though you are not playing together in a normal multiplayer session. Digix Art calls that online story link, and it is the main reason the game stands out. You play as a tidewalker on a flooded ocean world, moving between floating locations, meeting different factions, and making decisions that can carry over into somebody else's version of the game later. Another player can leave behind a changed state of the world, different missions, altered relationships, or a new mood in a location before you ever get there. The updated demo already makes it clear in Marketland, where inherited choices can change what you run into and how the area feels around you. The idea could have turned into a gimmick, but Digix Art is one of the few studios truly suited to it. This is the Road 96 team, so branching structure and player-driven variation are already part of its lane. Tides of Tomorrow releases April 22nd on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. Darwin's Paradox could have survived on the visual gimmick alone, because a cinematic platformer about an octopus already gets attention for free. The reason it keeps sticking is that the movement and puzzle ideas actually fit the character. Darwin slips through tight spaces, climbs, uses ink, and turns his whole body into the solution for problems that would feel routine with a more normal hero. The game moves through strange environments full of traps, creatures, and environmental storytelling, But the bigger surprise is how playful it feels without becoming childish. Konami also leaned into that with a demo full of Metal Gear Solid callbacks, including a snake skin and stealth-flavored sections. That could have been a throwaway stunt, but it ended up giving the game even more personality and making it easier to remember for people who usually ignore smaller platformers. During development, the team shifted from Switch to Switch 2, which says a lot about how much they care about presentation and smooth performance. What came out of that looks like something sitting between a puzzle platformer and a weird creature adventure, with enough personality to avoid feeling like just another cute style-first indie project today. While the whole scene is still counting days until GTA 6 drops in November, April already serves up its own answer, and it's the straight-up anime take on that open-world madness. Neverness to Everness, or NTE for short, hits globally on April 29th. Hada Studio, the same crew behind Tower of Fantasy, built this free-to-play supernatural urban RPG set in the sprawling modern city of Hetero. Random anomalies keep warping streets and buildings, so you run as an unlicensed anomaly hunter, grabbing gigs from a shady antique shop to track down and shut down the threats. But the real hook sits in the open world. Full car collecting, tuning, and street racing across the city, plus buying and customizing your own property. Break the rules and the multi-level wanted system kicks in, cops chase you hard, and if they catch you, it's straight to the detention center where you either work off the sentence or try a full jailbreak. Latest trailers even showed realistic vehicle damage. Tires pop, windows shatter, cars can explode, and rain or snow completely changes how they handle. All of that arrives in one massive same-day global launch on April 29th across PS5, PC, Mac, and mobile, with full cross-platform play from the start. Masters of Albion feels like Peter Molyneux trying to pull together every kind of game people still connect with his name. During the day you build a village, move people and resources around, and shape the town from above like a classic God game. At night, the tone flips, and you defend the same place against monsters with direct control over heroes on the ground. The split is the whole appeal. One half is cozy settlement building, crafting, and management, while the other is third-person combat, survival pressure, and protecting what you created before dark. The game is also being framed as the first chapter of a bigger plan, with 22 cans using early access to build the larger version over time if the launch goes well. There is also a lot riding on this outside the game itself. Molyneux has openly called it the culmination of his life's work, and a chance to rebuild trust after decades of overpromising. Village by day, danger by night, and your own decisions sitting right in the middle. It also brings back Albion, which gives older Fable fans one more reason to keep a close eye on it now. Masters of Albion enters early access for PC on April 22nd. Mouse PI for Hire still sounds like a joke title until you look at what the game is actually doing. Behind the black and white rubber hose animation is a fast first-person shooter with a hard-boiled detective frame, absurd weapons, movement tools, and a city full of gangs, clues, and side cases. The art gets attention first, but the gunplay clearly matters. You play as Jack Pepper, a former war hero turned private investigator in Mouseburg, and the case spirals into kidnapping, corruption, and murder. Fumi Games mixes classic shooter flow with clue hunting, platforming, and gadgets like grappling hooks, wall runs, and double jumps. The arsenal is part of the appeal too. One weapon freezes enemies, another melts them, and another messes with their head, while the game treats all of it with a completely straight face. Troy Baker voices Jack. The soundtrack leans into jazz and noir, and the world jumps from streets and sewers to studios, swamps, and giant interiors without losing that 1930s look. The game launches on April 16th for PS5, Xbox Series, PC, and Nintendo Switch 2. Dragon Pearl of Destruction looks like the kind of He-Man game many people assumed would never happen anymore. Bitmap Bureau is making a side-scrolling magic brawler with big pixel sprites, Eternia locations, local co-op, and a structure that sounds like an old arcade beat-em-up without feeling cheap or rushed. The playable lineup starts with He-Man, Teela, and Man-at-Arms, and the game leans into character-specific moves instead of making everybody feel the same with different art. There are special attacks, screen-clearing powers, battle cat sequences, and 12 stages. She-Ra is also planned as an extra playable character in later runs, which is a nice bonus for longtime fans. Bitmap Bureau has spent years making retro-styled action games, so this does not look like a random licensed cash-in. It looks like a team that actually knows how to make chunky arcade combat feel good today. Having limited run handle, the physical release also fits the collector angle around Masters of the Universe. The game will be playable on April 28th across all platforms, including last-gen consoles. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which of these games are you picking up this April. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.